The morning started quiet, too quiet for a place like my pasture. Mist was still sitting low when I heard engines where there should never be any. 3 shiny SUVs rolled in, cutting straight through my grass like they owned it. I stood by the fence, confused, watching tires crush feed paths I made with my own hands. Then a woman stepped out, sunglasses on, clipboard tied in her grip, already shouting before I said a word. She said the HOA approved a community access road and I should be thankful for progress. I told her this land was private, no papers, no notice, nothing. She laughed and pointed behind her where workers were already laying gravel. That's when one of the bulls lifted its head. Big one, old scars. He didn't like the noise. I tried to warn him, told her calmly to move the cars back. She screamed that I was threatening her and ordered everyone to stay put. The engines kept running, dust rising, metal clanging. The bull snorted once, deep and angry. Then another joined him. The ground shifted under my boots as the herd began to move, and suddenly the woman's voice cracked, not angry anymore, just sharp with fear as she realized the road she built had gone straight through the one place I never locked for a reason.
The workers froze first, shovels hanging in the air, eyes locked on the bulls closing in. One of the drivers tried to reverse, but the tires just spun in the loose gravel they had dumped minutes earlier. The woman started screaming orders, telling everyone to stay calm, like calm could stop 800 kilos of muscle and horn. I jumped the fence, waving my arms, shouting for her to shut the engines off. Noise makes them angry, I said. She didn't listen. She pulled out her phone and yelled that she was calling the police and adding animal assault to my charges. That's when the lead bull charged the hood of the nearest SUV, not hitting it yet, just stopping inches away, snorting so hard the car shook. The driver inside was crying. I noticed something then, something wrong. The gravel line didn't stop at my pasture. It curved toward the creek, the one that feeds the whole area. This wasn't just a road, this was a shortcut. And judging by the quiet smile on the woman's face, even as chaos grew, she knew exactly what she was doing, long before the bulls did.
I whistled sharp again, louder this time, forcing the sound out of my chest, and the bulls slowed just enough for me to move closer to the cars. Dust hung in the air, mixing with the smell of fuel and fear. I told the drivers to open the doors slowly and step out, no sudden moves, no shouting. One man finally listened, his hands shaking so bad he dropped his keys. Another kept yelling that the HOA lawyer said this land was unclaimed and that I was blocking a legal road. That word hit me hard. Unclaimed. My father used to warn me about that word, said people with clean shoes and loud voices love it because it makes stealing sound official. The woman snapped again, said I had 30 seconds before she had me arrested, sued, and removed. I laughed, short and dry, because it all clicked in that moment. This wasn't about a road or even my pasture. They wanted a reaction. They wanted a report, photos, maybe a video of dangerous animals near public access. As the workers ran back toward their trucks, I saw survey stakes near the creek, half hidden in grass, marked with fresh paint I knew too well. Federal land markers. If my bulls were labeled a threat near protected water, they could shut me down fast. Behind me, the lead bull pawed the ground again, closer than before, breathing heavy. I felt the weight of the trap closing in and understood the twist wasn't whether the bulls would charge, but whether I could stop them before someone else got exactly what they came for. I stepped back slowly, keeping my body between the bulls and the cars, talking to them under my breath like I had done since they were calves. The woman didn't hear me or didn't care. She was filming now, phone held high, narrating how a violent landowner had unleashed animals on a lawful project. That's when I saw another twist slip out by mistake. One of the workers shouted her name, asking if they should stop because the permit line was wrong. She snapped at him to shut up. Wrong how? I asked. She smiled without looking at me and said mistakes happen, especially on old land with messy ownership. My hands tightened.
This land wasn't messy, it was clean, registered, taxed, and protected, but only if you knew where to look. The lead SUV finally stalled, engine choking, and the silence made the bulls restless again. I told everyone to move toward the fence, slow and quiet. One driver did, another froze. Then the bull lowered his head, not charging yet, just testing. In that moment, I realized she didn't need the bulls to hit the cars. She needed fear, footage, and one bad step. And the worst part was, the deeper the panic grew, the calmer she became, like this was always how the story was supposed to look from the outside.
I raised my hand and the bull stopped, muscles tight, breath loud, waiting on me instead of the noise around him. That's when a sheriff's cruiser rolled up at the edge of the pasture, lights off but camera already on the dash, like he didn't want to interrupt the scene, just recorded. The woman waved him down fast, voice suddenly shaken in a perfect way, saying she feared for her life and that I refused lawful access. The deputy looked at the torn grass, the half-built gravel strip, then at the bull standing inches from metal. He asked for permits. She handed him a folder, thick, neat, confident. While he flipped through it, I noticed something small but loud in my head. The dates were wrong. Fresh ink, old signatures. I told him to check the creek boundary map, the one updated after the flood 5 years back. His eyes changed when he did. The road line crossed into protected waterland, not HOA land. The woman's smile faded for half a second, just enough. One of the drivers slipped in the mud and screamed, and the bulls shifted again, closer, restless. The deputy raised his hand, torn between common animals and common people. I realized then the final twist wasn't the law or the land. It was time. The longer this standoff lasted, the more likely someone would panic, and panic was the only thing still working in her favor.
I made a choice fast. I unclipped the gate and let the smaller bulls drift out first, slow and wide, pulling the big one with them like a tide turning. The deputy noticed and stepped forward, telling everyone to stay still. The woman screamed that I was releasing animals on purpose, but her voice cracked again when the herd moved away instead of forward. The camera on her phone caught it all, just not the way she planned. The gravel road now sat empty, torn up, useless, ending right at the creek line she said didn't matter. The deputy asked her why the permits showed an emergency access road when the cars were personal vehicles with HOA plates. She tried to answer, then stopped. Silence can be louder than shouting. I leaned on the fence, breathing steady, and told the deputy about the letters I never replied to, the offers to buy, the warnings about imminent claims if I didn't cooperate. His jaw tightened. He asked her one last question, real calm, about who ordered the work to start before final approval. She looked at the cars, then at me, then back at him. That's when I understood the last twist was already rolling in. The road wasn't meant to last a day. It was meant to exist just long enough to force this moment, and now that it failed, she was already thinking about who she could blame for it next.
The deputy asked her to step aside while he made a call. And that's when the mask fully dropped. She stopped acting scared and started acting careful, like someone counting exits. One of the workers quietly told the deputy he was hired that morning by a shell company, paid cash, no contracts. That hit harder than shouting ever could. The deputy came back, voice low, saying state land records showed an easement request denied 2 months ago. Same route, same creek. She said it was a clerical error, blamed consultants, blamed timing, blamed everyone except herself. I pulled out my phone then and showed him something I hadn't planned to use yet. Emails, offers, threats dressed as friendly advice, all tied to the HOA board president. Her name was right there. The woman's face went pale. She whispered that I was ruining a community project. I told her she built a road through my pasture because she thought fear would make me sell. Behind us, the bulls were calm now, chewing grass like nothing happened. The deputy told her to sit on the bumper and not make any calls. As he read more, I felt it settle in. This wasn't just about my land anymore. This was about how far they were willing to go and how many times they had already done this to people who didn't have fences, bulls, or proof. The tow trucks came before sunset.
dragging the SUVs out one by one, gravel spilling back into the pasture like evidence that couldn't hide anymore. The deputy gave me a quiet nod and said animal control wouldn't be needed, but investigators would. The woman didn't scream this time. She just stared at the ground while another officer read her rights, still holding that clipboard like it could save her. Later that night, I walked the fence line with a flashlight, checking the grass, the creek, the stakes they thought I wouldn't notice. Everything was still mine. The bulls followed me, slow, calm, loyal, stopping where the false road ended. A week later, I learned the HOA board dissolved overnight, record sealed, president on leave. Offers stopped. Letters stopped. Silence returned to the pasture. People online argued about the video, some saying I was lucky, others saying I was dangerous. None of them mattered. What mattered was this. They thought they could scare me into giving up my past. Instead, they built a road that led straight to their own mess, and my land was still standing when the dust finally settled.
Weeks passed, but the story didn't leave the pasture. Neighbors whispered about the bull standoff, and some came by, curious, cameras in hand, asking how I stayed calm while chaos tore through my land. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to make them understand that fear is heavier than any herd, and planning beats shouting. Then one afternoon, I noticed a new stake near the far edge of the creek. Fresh paint again. My pulse jumped. Someone was trying to test me to see if the lesson had sunk in. I walked over slowly, bulls behind me, watching, listening. This stake wasn't marked like the others, no survey numbers, nothing official, just a single symbol scratched in, almost hidden. My chest tightened. Whoever had left it knew the story, knew the bulls, knew the timing. I realized that even though the immediate battle was over, the war of tricks and traps wasn't done. And that's when I understood the final twist of the pasture. Winning once didn't mean safety. It meant everyone who thought they could challenge me now had to step carefully or get charged themselves. The quiet in the pasture that evening was heavier than any shouting, and I smiled, knowing I was ready for whoever came next.
Months later, the silence had settled like fog, but I could feel it shifting whenever someone new drove past the fence. The road they tried to force through my land had been erased, but its memory lingered, stakes removed, gravel swept away. Yet every passerby who glanced at the pasture knew something had happened here. One morning, I noticed a car parked near the edge of the creek, just far enough to pretend casual, its windows tinted. I didn't move immediately. I let the bulls sense it first. The lead bull sniffed the air, ears twitching, muscles coiling. The car door opened slowly, and a man stepped out with a measuring tape and a notebook. He didn't run, didn't shout, just started pacing near the invisible line where the old road ended. I walked toward him calmly, letting the bulls follow my rhythm. When he saw me, his confident smirk faltered. He had been sent to test if I was still vigilant, if I would react to fear. I smiled back, simple, cold, and steady. The final twist hit me then. The pasture wasn't just my land. It had become a warning, a story written into every blade of grass and hoofprint, and anyone who thought they could cross it without paying attention now knew exactly what they were up against. The man froze, realizing too late that some battles never end. They just wait for the wrong move.